Tonight, it is a little bit special. Tonight is very different. A, Matt is not here. B, this is pre-election testing. And tonight, I believe that for the first time we'll be testing something else than Californian wines or domestic wines, for the matter. So, anyway, let's introduce the panel. Lady first, what's your name?
Deline Vollenweider. I'm a chef and part-time farrier.
It's nice. What about you, young man?
Christian Lane. I'm a winemaker and an author of a book that has to do with how we talk about wine.
Okay, wow. So we have a pro. And what about you, young man?
Christopher Blum. I own a business consulting company here in the Napa Valley.
Fantastic. So we have a winemaker, we have a chef and a business consultant, a professional, almost professional, and could be professional. If you make enough money, I mean, you should be you're the man we like, to sell wine to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 15 minutes until 6:15, 6 wines, 15 minutes. The first wine, the first flight is being poured already. When we're done with that, don't hesitate, dump it, and pour yourself the next wine. All right? Okay. And I come back and see you in the 15 minutes. All right, go ahead. And no talking. No talking during the 15 minutes. No talking. All right, so this is a little bit different. Morgan, good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Morgan, tell me a little bit what you do and where you're from.
So, well, from Napa, California now, via Santa Barbara, California, and a few other stops along the way. Formerly trained chef, classically trained, went to the New England Culinary Institute in Montpelier, Vermont, and then proceeded to go on an internship here to Napa Valley, California, where I was in love with wine, didn't know if I wanted to go with wine or go with food, but you love both. So having done the whole culinary internship, I decided to just follow my heart and go with the food, and been here ever since, and stopped at a couple places. Domaine Chandon, worked in the line there with Philippe Gentil, and then worked at a winery called Cakebread Cellars here, and was a sous chef there for 3 years. And I got to have these great conversations with Jack Cakebread in the kitchen. Every morning he'd come in, have his cup of coffee, and we'd talk about the wine and the world and how he saw it, and which was really a great insight. I also was in charge of his personal cellar, which to my understanding, nobody else has been in there since I've been there. But it was great. 10 vintages of everything he's ever made. And then I took over the position as the executive chef of Franciscan Estates, as it was known at the time. So I had all the icon brands for Constellation Brands, and was there for 8 years. And that was a lot of fun. So I got to have these great conversations with the presidents and brand managers and winemakers of everything you could ever think of. And I always loved wine, and I got to meet a bunch of other really cool winemakers along the way and talk about their different perspective. There's sort of the big company corporate way of making wine, and there's the little boutique-y thing. Irma and I living here, my wife Irma, living here in Napa, we have we've cultivated a lot of relationships with these winemakers. So I'd made rosé one year, and I'd go up to the lab, and the lab would say, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that." And I'd go talk to my buddy Aaron Pott, and he'd be like, "Well, does it taste good?" Yes. He'd say, "Well, stop fermentation." Okay, there it is. So there was the two different whole perspectives making wine. I decided I really like wines that are kind of like the way I cook. Yeah. And I like food-friendly wines. I like high acid. You need high acid in food, and you need high acid in wine. I'm not just a fruit bomb kind of guy. And my wife and I, we like to travel the world. We've been to most major wine-growing regions, save South Africa, on the planet, and we took a trip to Argentina because we're really interested in sort of the Italian street food, wine culture that was going on down there, and we were just stunned when we got there because it's just all these Italian. I mean, the country's 75% Italians. They all immigrated there between 1880 and 1930. It was one of the 5 wealthiest nations in the world. Tons of prosperity. So we went there and we were just stunned that they had this whole wine culture. The wines that we were seeing here in the U.S. were inexpensive fruit bombs with no particular reason for being or place They're just really fruity and pleasant. And we went around and went all over. We went down to Patagonia. We went to Mendoza and really just enjoyed all these really cool wines that you could taste. And you're like, you know what? There's terroir going on there. And not only that, they're really inexpensive. And they were really good. And my first reaction was, man, we're in trouble at Constellation. Like, because this wine, it may only be $10 or $12 on the shelf, but it tastes like 25 or 28. So I was like, so my first reaction was, oh boy, we're in trouble. And then on the plane flight home, I turned to my wife, who was in direct consumer sales at a winery called Quintessa there, running the tasting room for a few years. And I said, you know, here's the idea. We'll start a wine club where we'll bring all these small family producers of wines that are terroir driven, and we'll bring them to a wine club that we'll start, knowing that a wine club was the most successful and prosperous part of every business model at the time. We're talking 1996 or so, around then, right around there. So fast forwarding a little bit, while we were down there, we met an importer in Buenos Aires, a guy named Julio Suarez, and he'd been importing for several years. And then he came to Napa. And it was just purely just, you know, hey, I'll show you my wineries, and then you show me the wineries you have relationships when I come to Napa. He came to Napa. We did the same. And then I asked him if he could import some wines. He said, that's a very good idea. But when we started off, we said, okay, well, we want to place an order. And the producers are like, well, that's great, but 10 cases is not going to do it. You got to do a little bit more. At the same time, Julio was looking to do something different. So we came up with this idea of his business before was called S Selections. Ours was, we were thinking about it. We named it Taste Vino Selections. And the idea is we're a national importer, and we import and distribute in states nationally. I can't even count how many at the moment right now, but then we also have a direct consumer club, wine club that we have. So we will cherry pick a bunch of the wines from these little producers for our wine club, and then on a national scale, we're a little more focused, and we have maybe a couple handfuls of wine that we actually sell on a national level. But our producers, they produce more than one or two wines, but on a national sale, you just can't really do that.
This is a pretty cool concept. I mean, so the vision is great. You have this vision since 1996. You've been working into that, and what you're saying is that you have a license that really allows you to sell retail to a group of members, and then whatever you don't sell, or not even you don't sell, but you also distribute that to other states and other retailers. So, how many people? That's something like similar to Kermit Lynch and the things, isn't it?
Well, Kermit Lynch actually was a great sort of inspiration for this whole deal. When I first bounced this off a friend, he's like, Kermit Lynch, right? And I kind of went, yeah, a little bit like that, minus the, we're in modern times now, and I don't know if we need a brick and mortar place to sell wine. But the internet is a great place to sell wine these days, as we all know. But the inspiration for it more was there's more than just France and California. We went down there and we were just exactly. Well, there's a whole world of wine out there, and they're not just being. I'm talking about countries just like California, where they've been producing wines since the 1850s, 1840s. One of our wineries, their cellar was built in the 1870s, and that's not the common perception of New World wines, which would be in South America as well. South America is often lumped into New World wines, and they've only been making wine seriously for 5 years. No, there's countries and places down there where these families are generational. Their vineyards are dry farmed, they're organic, they don't have pesticides, they sulfite twice a year down there because they don't have moisture. They don't have to worry about it.
It's interesting because to me, and that's why I think dealing with a person like you is you seem to be bringing some wine that are very different of what the mainstream distributors are bringing up here. I always find the wines from Argentina, the Malbecs and all that, are kind of very ripe and very Californian in style, But I remember also going to Uruguay and Argentina a couple of years ago, when I was going to a restaurant, the wines were totally different of what I was drinking here. So can you comment on that?
Oh, Yeah, it's funny you say Uruguay. Uruguay is the hidden treasure in South America right now. They've been making the winery I was telling you about. We sat in their cellar. It was built in the 1870s, and they've been making wine there ever since. Uruguay is almost virtually dry farmed, estate, organic. They're not certified organic, but to be Uruguayan and make wine, you are beholding to your country and your lifestyle more than almost any other. They have the highest agriculture standards in the world. You wouldn't dare as a Uruguayan do anything that would harm the soil, because that's the one thing that binds them all together, that makes them all feel that they're part of one thing. So if you were to do something that was bad for the land, it would be like burning the American flag in First and Main Street. People would, if you did that here in Napa, the villagers would riot. You would have something, the same thing down in Uruguay if you did something, and to a lesser degree in other parts of South America, but particularly there. And also, some of the wines, one of the wines that I brought tonight, the way that they come up with the final blend for the wine is they don't sit in a cellar and go, oh, I like this, I like this. They take the different blends, they take it home, and they have it with food. And they say, which blend tastes best with dinner tonight? Now, if you're Uruguayan, it's probably beef is the main entree, but nonetheless, it's going to taste better with food. Exactly, yeah, exactly. So there it is. So you have a little something going on with it. But what's the better meal wine to cap the whole thing off? Where it was totally different than our thought process here in the United States. Whereas we just sit in a lab and go, does this taste nice for one sip? Not how does the whole bottle taste over an hour and a half with dinner? So those are, and that's kind of what we were trying to bring to the table, was something just a little bit different and just not just that fruit bomb.
I was just watching the testing panel, and I think Chris Blum seems to be a little bit puzzled. He was looking at this glass here, just wondering, what were you doing, like Chris? You like it? Mm-hmm. Now we come back later, but and meanwhile, Darlene is doing pretty well. She's like keeping up with the boys here, and
good job. One chef to another, right? Yeah, thank you.
Meanwhile, you have the quiet power on the far right, and the Christian is like going through his thing here and just really, really hammering this. He was the first one to dump his wine, the first flight, and he's going to be the first one to finish it up, I think. Chris seems to have a little problem. He's still dealing with the first one here. I'm not sure.
Well, there's still one other thing I wanted to talk about, because people, when they have this, here in the U.S., we have this impression that the United States, that everything south of the border is Mexico. And that's simply not the case. Mexico is Mexico.
That's a good start, though.
It's a great start. Mexico has this elevated cuisine. It had a great culture that was there. The Aztecs that conquered the world. Every great culture defines themselves with their food, i.e. the French, right? Minus the British, right? But every other great culture in the world sorry about that.
That's all right.
I knew that would be okay. But every great culture defines themselves with their food. But you start getting past Central America, and there aren't a whole lot of, besides the Incas, a whole lot of great cultures that have happened. So what happens is in South America, you had this huge expanse of tons of resources, and there was this huge European migration. Now, the Spaniards founded Argentina, Uruguay, and for the most part, most of Chile. But what they promptly did was they rounded them up and slaughtered them all. And the ones that survived went over to Chile. The ones that stayed, there was nothing left in Uruguay and Argentina. And then the country started prospering. And then in 1880, it had all these natural resources. It had a ton of money and a ton of resources and a ton of need for people to come. Now, if you're an Italian immigrant and you're in Italy, in southern Italy in particular, and you're very poor, and the one thing you want is land and prosperity, where are you going to go? New York City? No. You're going to go all the way around the Horn to California? No, you're going to take a simple boat ride with your olive tree and your grapevine cutting, and you're going to go to Argentina, you're going to go into the hills, and you're going to put both of them in the ground, and you're going to take as much land as you possibly want. And that's what's going to happen. So if you go around the streets of Buenos Aires, as you know, or Uruguay, it's very European. There's lots of white marble, lots of very thin, light-skinned people that are not, it's not like a heavy, short, like Indian influenced country. So and when they speak Spanish, they're speaking with an Italian accent. So it's this very European lifestyle. They eat dinner at 11 till 2 o'clock in the morning. It's very laid back. They take a siesta, which is nice also. And they start their morning at 10:30 in the morning, which is very civilized as opposed to 8 o'clock. but it's just a whole different lifestyle, and it plays into that food and wine lifestyle, back to where food and wine, they have a relationship together, and they should live together.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 6:15. I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes, to wrap it up, and then you and I are gonna move and see what the panel thinks about the wine. So your wine are from South of America, Argentina, Uruguay, or
Chile. So we do the three major wine producing nations of South America. We have a couple wineries in Chile. We have a couple wineries in Argentina. But the ones that we chose in Argentina are small, family-owned, generational farm landowners down there. And then in Uruguay, our main partner is the oldest, most significant partner or brand in all of Uruguay. In fact, they believe they have over 30% market share in all premium wines in Uruguay. Wow. Their top wine is a companion. They have a top wine that they make with Bernard Marguet. Bernard Marguet takes half of it and takes it back and sells it, and the other half they keep. So,
well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna step in and mingle with the panel. Are you done?
I'm finished.
Yes. Excellent. Nice catch. Pretty good, eh?
Very good.
Come in and sit
okay,
down.
we'll sit down.
Sit down.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna numbers here and do the math.
Okay.
You done? Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about the flight in general? Oh, how about those two here?
Oh, I'll get those
Thank you
for
very
you.
much.
Christian?
Extremes.
Okay.
There was some crap, and there was some good wine.
Got it.
IMO.
That's good.
How about you, Dylan? What do you think?
I liked the way that they were set up, 1 through 3. There were some things I really liked. There were a couple I did not care for. Then there were a couple I felt needed food.
Got it. That's fair enough.
Mhm.
And yourself? Chris?
The first flight, I think that the sparkling stood out a little bit. The other ones were a little bit soft, but drinkable.
That's exactly the purpose. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by drinkable? I mean, that's like,
I think it's enjoyable. Look like this, like without any food, or having it with a meal. So
I'm just like, guys, you need to pick your words a little bit carefully, because I'm just coming from a country, France, and from a family. My parents making wine. My family is making wine for generation. But this is the worst fucking wine we ever produced. I mean, this is really bad. I don't think that nothing like that really exists besides in my family. So I'm gonna test some of those wine too. No, we should.
No, please. Yeah.
Mhm.
And check it out. So your philosophy is pretty interesting. I mean,
Yeah. And that's a common
yeah.
common reaction, and that's the intention. Is because here, particularly here in California, we have this obsession with going after fruit, and then there are wines that we have that we import that do, unless it's kind of a really quirky, geeky sort of person in California, they're like, I can't sell this to the California population. That being said, that same wine in New York, where you have a Eurocentric palate, it just goes crazy there. So there's two completely different flavor profiles that we're dealing with. And here in California, we're used to Howell Mountain Zinfandel with that whole deal, and alcohol levels, and just a whole ton of sulfites and all kinds of groovy things going on in there, and you drink a half bottle and you feel like you just want to stay in bed the next day. Personally, there's not a wine you can drink any one of these wines beginning to end, and you will get up the next day and feel fine. And honestly, I when I drink wines from California, I choose them very selectively, because I'm hypersensitive to what I call the red wine headache, which is that sort of sinus thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just one glass will send me to the moon. It's over. I'm done. The next day, I'm in bed. It's just horrible. There's nothing I can do about it. And people will say it's aged wines, it's this, that, or the rest. This I do know. And I used to say the whole sulfite thing's a bunch of BS or whatever. I'm kind of on board with it now, having tasted wines that have been through it a lot of
Mhm.
times, and also when they stop fermentation, the larger volume wines. Now help me out, Christian. What is that we use to stop fermentation?
What do we
Wait,
stop fermentation
yeah,
with?
exactly.
I couldn't tell you. I've never stopped a fermentation.
So you let it go naturally from beginning and end all the way. So, but anyway, the process of that will often create what I call sort of like there'll be like huge amounts going in there. And if you have a huge tank of wine and you're putting that in, there's too much money on the line. So the big producers, of your between $10 and $20 price range right there, there's 1 million gallons of wine right there. They can't afford to have anything go wrong. They can't have a stuck fermentation. That's just frankly too much wine on that. But if you have a small producer, it's fine. You can do that. And so if you have a naturally produced wine that goes through fermentation.
All right, so we're gonna reveal the wine, Guy.
I'm glad you're killing this. This will be an education for all of us.
So, wine D, no one really liked it, and even for Chris, that was almost his lowest number on this one year. But you really didn't like it.
No, it's no offense.
No,
It's cheap commercial garbage.
that's interesting. What if I told you it was organic, sustainable, estate, and made entirely by a brand that owns its own ABBA?
It doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
No, it's squeezed. It's metallic. It's cooked tasting. It's I want to make it clear that I don't have a California palate. I taste wines from around the world all week long, and I also dip into what's on the bottom shelf of the grocery store just to find out what people all over the country are into. And it's just like, hurry up, make wine that doesn't cost much, and do whatever you have to do. It reminds me a little bit of the bottom shelf. It reminds me of some of the negative experiences I have had with Lodi wines as well.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I kind of remember tasting those wines in France actually, or Italy. So I mean, that's of course that's not the greatest. So even like Auriga, but it's funny to me. It reminds me about a little bit more Auriga. I don't know if this is from Uruguay.
It is. It's a Uruguayan Pinot Noir.
Is that right?
In fact, it's a Uruguayan Pinot Noir. It's a state. It's dry farmed. The brand is Juanico or Pueblo del Sol, which is their value-based brand. And Pueblo del Sol is a brand, and that's topping out at $12 a bottle right there.
Maybe I'm spoiled.
So, and that's, and
I don't think so.
So at K&L, that's $12 a bottle. Joe really likes it down there. It is relatively low alcohol. The previous vintage was at 12%, so it's not overripe. Paul Hobbs loves it, and in fact, so much so that he's signed on to be the consulting winemaker for the whole property now.
It's more like almost like a Beaujolais. I mean, it's a very it's very like a massive
it's not
fermentation.
It is not carbonic, but it's darn near close to it. And it's so this winery, labor's cheap in Uruguay, but think Uruguay's a different place than it is here. So it's rolling hills, but those are all valid, and that's exactly what I was pointing out to. This wine doesn't do really well unless you're a complete Francophile, sort of geeky collect like Joe at K&L, but it does really well in New York and on the Eastern Seaboard. They really like that sort of. And when I was going to culinary school, I mean, to find organic estate at $12, which was my price range when I was in culinary school, was exactly it. Now that being said, is it meant to be a world-class Pinot Noir? It's just meant to be drunk, enjoyed, and if you open a glass, and there it is.
I think this one would be great, but it has to be served chilled. Can you pass me one with B, chilled?
Chilled. In other words, hiding. No, I'm not.
No, I'm with you on that.
I'm not going to slam it too hard.
No, dude.
Cheap wine has.
No, but I think chilled is this one has a place.
And a part of our driving force for what we do was. I had a brother-in-law. He has the means. He started off as a laborer, ended up being the president of the construction company he was in. He fell in love with wine when he started. He built the bridge in Geyserville. You know, the Geyserville Bridge goes over Murville. He built that bridge in like 1970, whatever. My sister was his girlfriend. They're since married, multiple kids, grandkids, the whole deal. Fell in love with Zinfandel. But to this day, it drives him crazy that what he used to pay $10 and $12 for is now $100. And he's like, my dollar is not seeing an X factor of 10 here, and it's the same exact product. So he will go out of his way. He's like, I don't spend more than $20 on a bottle of wine. He has the means, he will do it, but he just on principle doesn't do it. So he spends it. And when we were first thinking about this, I was like, you know, there's got to be this whole group of people out there that are not. They're just frankly not. Because I can't tell you how many times you know, $100 Merlot, Napa Valley. Who are you? I don't know. You're a doctor. Who cares? You know what I mean? I don't. You know, yeah, you were very good in your other profession, but you came here and you got big name winemaker to make your wine, and so therefore it's worth $100. To me, it tastes like $20. You know, so that was my thing was, I'm not trying to take over the world. I'm just trying to find a few people that are sort of in the similar sort of category.
All right, so the next wine is B. And the B, Chris, you don't like it too much?
No, in fact, this one and the last one we just tasted were my least favorite. Of the two.
So what was on this one for you?
It just was unimpressive. Really, really soft and didn't have much of a finish to it.
Okay. What can you do you recognize the varietal into that, or are you familiar? Do Sauvignon Blanc or anything like that? Keep in mind it's coming from Argentina. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was a Sauvignon, but I couldn't say.
Okay. How about you, Dylan? So you're like, again, you're like right in the middle between those two guys. And what do you think of the wine?
You know, I thought that it was, you know, it had a nice floral quality. It was slightly bitter to me.
Okay.
I didn't like the finish. I would cook with it. I don't know that I would drink it unless I had some food with it. But I think it would do really nice with some fish, a nice pork. But I felt like it needed food to go with it.
To tie it up?
Tie it up.
Okay. How about you, Christian?
I liked it. I
You
liked
do
it.
like
all
it.
right.
That's like your second highest.
Yeah. I don't know what the varietal is, but it strikes me as a Chenin Blanc, and I'm kind of into that because the finish had some interesting aspects. Some curveballs, lettuce,
Okay, let's reveal that.
orange peel. Yeah, pretty cool.
So, Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc from Chile. It's a brand called Paso del Sol, which is once again a value brand at $9.99 to $11.99. Owned by three sisters in their 90s that have owned the vineyards for their entire family.
Nice.
Dry farm, organic, the whole bit. Chilean fruit. It's lots of lemon limes, sort of fresh, clean, simple Sauvignon Blanc. Don't put it in your cellar. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Cook with it if you like. I cook with this wine. This would be my preferred. I don't like to cook with oaked wines, but I happen to drink a little bit along the way as well. I just sort of like the fresh, clean, citrusy, Sauvignon Blanc-y sort of style. Once again, just sort of playing into that, not meant to take over the world, just have a glass of wine, don't take it too seriously, and enjoy it.
What's the price point on this one here?
It said between 10 and 12 bucks.
Okay.
So once again, a value brand that is organic, sustainable, and actually, because back to that Pinot Noir and this wine, if you were really familiar with the growing areas, you go, that's terroir. You get that little pencil shave in the nose, and you're like, oh my! You get excited. That's Uruguay, or that's that little grassy, funky, bitter taste you're going. That's Chile in a glass, right there. There it is. There's Chile in the glass, and that's not. I don't know. It's not California, so that's all. Just a little hint of terroir.
You've been using the term terroir quite a bit, and tell us a little bit what is the meaning of terroir to you.
Well, a sense of place, right? And it doesn't. For me, it's so uncommon today. And I've sat in with big tastings with name the fancy sommelier, master somm, whatever, the whole bit, and we'll have Rutherford versus Oakville, and you'll have 100 of these guys pontificate about how they feel it's Rutherford. And you're never going to get the two different. Yeah, there's a dusty aspect to some of the wines. Some are a little jammy. Some might even have a little Brett, i.e. Opus, up until a couple of years ago, this sort of deal. But basically what you're looking for is house style and picking them out. And it's all BS.
Yeah.
The reality, though, is it big, ripe, jammy, high alcohol, and a little residual sugar. California. There it is, in your pal, right there.
Okay. Born and raised in
Robert
California.
Parker, 93 points. Love it.
Yeah.
People in Texas, buy it by the pallet. You know, there it is. I'm not saying, but that's just reality, all right?
They can have what they
want.
So Christian, what do you think of the definition? Do you agree with Morgan?
Do I agree with that definition? Yeah, sure. And I mean, just to elaborate, one person said to me, terroir, I don't like terroir. I don't like the taste of dirt. And I said, terroir is not dirt. It's, if you want to get really into it, it's wind direction. It's what direction is the vineyard planted? Is it sun exposure? Is it number of 100-degree days? Is it, what's in the soil? Is it C. Hopkins, There's this formula of all the minerals. I can't remember. It's in this book. But it exactly boils down to a sense of place. What does this taste like?
Yeah.
Does this taste like West Side Paso Robles? Yeah. And that's all you need to know.
And you can always be wrong. There's always things that are, wines that are made in a different style, we could have something made in Calistoga that tasted really similar to something in Paso Robles. But I'm just looking for just sort of basic, sort of like, if you tasted it, you kind of like if you went there or you wanted to go there and you had a glass of it, I'm kind of there,
Or is it a Franken wine? Does it taste like, are you in Calistoga and are you tasting, Saint Estèphe? That's doctored up. Somebody in a lab, pumped it up to try to please Parker. It's not sincere.
You may have a different definition because you're a chef and you've been, working very closely with kettles people and do the terroir has the same definition for cows and pigs and he has with wine.
It does. It does translate to the meat, depending on what they were fed, how long they were fed it, what part of the country they're from, what they, where, to the point to were they slaughtered on the farm, were they slaughtered at a small place, or were they slaughtered in a big production, were they transported? For me, I can taste that in the meat.
No shit.
Wow.
Well, I'm serious. I mean,
Once you get adrenaline running through the meat,
Yeah.
you taste, you get a much more of a heme, of an iron taste to the meat. Something that was relaxed when it was processed.
Got whacked.
Was
processed. I like that. I can eat meat now.
It doesn't have that same really strong irony taste to it. And what it eats, it affects it. I mean, I like grass-fed beef. A lot of people don't. They're used to the corn-fed beef, to the white fat, to that really round, almost corny taste to the meat.
Is there like a difference between white fat and black fat? I mean, what
I've
is
not
it?
had black fat.
I mean, I don't know.
No, but
my question was, what is white fat? I mean,
It's the carotene in what the animal eats that transfers to the color of the fat. So if they're eating live food, if they're eating grass, that carotene transfers directly to the fat and is stored there. That color is. So when they're corn-fed or they're fed on a processed feed, you get a very white, a much waxier fat covering.
Well, it's going to be like a great show. She's going to do her own shows pretty soon. Really awesome.
Wow, that's good.
So, all right. So,
Back to wine.
next wine is the wine A, and the wine A was the only sparkling wine on the table, sparkling wine, and Cinco Sentidos.
Yes, Cinco Sentidos, extra brut, and it is a Chardonnay, Semillon, and a Chenin Blanc there as well.
Oh, wow.
And that's what gives it slightly a little different, wacky, sort of richer, rounder sort of taste there. It's a new product or reintroducing it for the holiday season. Boats just went, the hurricane's not helping us out, but We're bringing it in, once again, under $20, $17, $18. If it's coming from anywhere but France or a couple of the producers here in the Napa Valley, it has to be in there. Otherwise, you're dealing with the French stuff. This brand,
French champagne.
Exactly. We call it French champagne. But
Spent a lot of money to.
and one of the few. That being said, when I was talking about earlier about one of the few wines that are worth $100 a bottle to me would be a vintage champagne from France. That and maybe something from Sauternes. To me, those wines I will pay top dollar for, and to me are worth every penny. This wine, once again, good wine, fresh, simple, clean, just slightly interesting. You know, generally anything sparkling under $20 is not going to have anything that's sort of like, there's something going on in the glass there. Now, Cinco Sentidos, this is a third generation Portuguese family. They've owned this land for right in central Mendoza for over 100 years. They produce a lot of olive oil also, and they also produce it. They have like artesian wells on their property, and they literally flood irrigate because they just take the cap off this thing and the water just comes flying up 10 feet in the air, floods their vineyard, which is controversial. But if you can flood irrigate, the thinking is that if you give the vines a deep soak, like once a week, that the roots will, instead of bunching at the top, will go all the way down to the bottom. Also, in Argentina, they don't have mold issues at all. There's no phylloxera. There's not enough. Phylloxera never hit there because they can't survive in the soil.
So you
couldn't flood irrigate here in Napa.
No, the villagers would riot. Yeah. In fact, we got to start thinking about going dry farmed organic here, because every vine takes way too much water. It takes too much water.
All right. I'd like to hear about Dylan. I mean, you enjoyed this wine.
I did.
Yeah, and talk to us about it. What you got out of it?
I thought it was fun. It had a nice sparkle, a small bubble. I like the acidity. I like the grapefruit. I like the lemongrass that I tasted. I would really just enjoy sipping a glass of this wine or with some appetizers or even as I like champagne with dessert or sparkling wine.
That's the perfect wine.
It goes with a little bit of everything.
About your question, you don't care too much about it. That wasn't that was second lowest.
No, I was okay. I gave it a 10, but that's not a kick in the pants.
No, that's not. No, definitely not. But just
it wasn't
that's the lowest of the three.
Profound by any means, but banana, pear, pineapple. It was fun. Oily yet minerally.
Yeah.
Decent stuff.
How about you?
I think I liked it.
Yeah.
It had a little small nose. It was crisp and a really even finish. And I thought that would be good with appetizers with fruit. I mean, it's something very drinkable. Something I like.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point out 11.5 alcohol too. So don't feel bad about drinking the whole bottle because you will feel good the next day. Where some of the sparkling,
I'm gonna write that down.
All right, so let's bring C. Wine C. All right, so wine C. Dylan, your least favorite on this one here, and tell us about it. Why?
I felt like it was just very, very light. It didn't have much of a mouthfeel to me. It was really minerally, which is not a bad thing, but I just didn't feel like there were a whole lot of other flavors there. That was kind of the overriding flavor for me. And the tannins were light. It was very one-dimensional for me.
Right.
So.
Okay. Chris,
I thought
you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought it had a great nose to it. I thought it had a really nice finish.
Yeah.
And I would enjoy that with a steak for sure.
Oh, all right. Okay. Even though that seems to be like a rosé, is it?
Yeah.
Well, how about you? You're like right in the middle. I mean, you like the wine, You
Good wine.
Yeah.
Round, pleasant, with a little bit of a twist. If I had to take a stab at the varietal, it seems is it a Saignée of Merlot?
No, this is a 100% dedicated rosé of Tannat.
Tannat.
Pretty cool, is it?
bulbous, cool grape, man.
I like that description.
So, all right. So here's the curveball, right? And now this is a very French style Tannat. It's dedicated fruit, so this is not a Saignée of something else. The previous vintage was a riper year, 2011. So the sugars got up to about 13.5 on this guy. The previous vintage was at 12.5, where the other Tannats from the same producer are around 13.5 to 14%. I love this wine. If you like rosé, now you have to really like rosé, and you need to like French rosé. It's not Saignée of maybe something else, Cabernet Sauvignon, or some of the Sangiovese Saignés that are out there around 15, 17%. I've seen that. But this guy right here, and this is the previous vintage. It's, we're looking at getting a new vintage real soon.
What's the price point?
$10 to $12.
Really?
Yeah. And a couple of the online communities right now are giving this 92 points. Not that makes a big difference, but it's different when consumers.
Oh, yes, it does.
Well, in that it's consumers saying that on their sort of online forums, as opposed to a publication saying, I'm giving it this because of whatever reasons. So, but Tannat's a freak grape varietal, by the way. Tannat has 5 seeds, not 2, and it has a very thick skin. In Uruguay, it grows much juicier and fruitier and bigger, so there's more flesh to juice ratio. So it gets much juicier, and it's really found a home there. It's dry farm, organic, and has more polyphenols and antioxidants than any other grape varietal in the world. In fact, it's a superfood, frankly. So if you want it, in Uruguay and Madron or Cahors, did I say that right? In the southwest region of France, those are sort of blue zones where people live into their 90s, and particularly men. So there's a common denominator of a little bit of religion, a lot of really good wine, or a little bit of alcohol.
Bring that this way.
Exactly. So my common line is, drink a glass of Tannat a day, live to 90, money back guaranteed, right? So.
And it's gonna have also like some kind of a very nice spices that you don't really find into some of the roses. It's very European on style. I mean that's.
And I actually crave this wine. I realize some people don't, and that's the point, though. That's exactly the point. It's Zuzu's doing really well with this by the glass down here.
Oh,
well, perfect, because the Spanish cuisine. I mean, this is like a really spicy. It really stands up to like saffron and things like that. I mean, this is great.
Exactly.
I just want to eat a pork chop.
Now there you go. Do it.
I eat a paella with this. Like,
Nick and I from Zuzu, we did a fantastic lobster, tomato, chili paella, and this is just screaming that right there with the lobster tails poking out and all that stuff.
Yeah, or mow the lawn, get all hot and sweaty, and
there it is, right?
But don't let anybody put an ice cube in it.
I don't mind that. You don't like that?
I hate that. I think it wrecks a wine.
Really? Yeah, I've never minded that when people just sort of put a nice, because if that's what they do, as long as they're not giving a sprit of Sprite, I saw a chef from Oklahoma do that one.
No offense to Wisconsin.
So,
Everybody?
No, just
So
for
you
you.
don't, it's not chilled to the point.
So like that's E.
Some of the people in the wine world that I respect the most, I watch them do that exactly. Drop an ice cube right in. No, and these are generational wine. And I saw that, I was like, I'll leave it at that.
All right. So now we have a tie for the first place and the highest rating wines. I mean, by far. And E and F, and we cannot have that. So I'm gonna ask you to go back into your and see if you want to change.
What are we looking right now at?
E and F.
E and F.
Oh, E
So,
and F.
yeah, so that's E here for you and F here. And if you want to go back into that, if you want to stick with your score, or you want to change a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
The one are very cool.
Yeah, and that's the idea. It's different. Our club and our distribution network is not based on, you want a fruit bomb, go join the fruit bomb, or you want the 90-point club, you want the 90-point wine, go do that. But you want to have something, you want to get an insight on a really cool part of the world that's really doing really unique, interesting wines. and want to taste different things, that's what we're all about. And it's pretty straightforward from that perspective. We're not trying to take over the world here. We don't need 30% market share. We just need taste-vino.com. Once again, taste-vino.com. Just in case we didn't miss it.
We're not gonna miss it.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely not.
So does anybody know what this varietal is?
Which, are you talking E or
I'm
F?
talking E right here.
E.
Yes,
It tastes something like a Zinfandel to me, but
that'd be a good analogy, but it's not.
it,
It's very
yeah,
close.
It does, yeah. It's not quite there.
It's not, yeah, it's not. It's not.
Mhm.
It's a little spicier on the nose, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, much spicier to me.
Chris?
I'm not gonna guess. I don't know. I really don't.
Christian?
I've got Cab Franc and Grenache and Syrah dancing through my head. It's like, it's such a Languedoc kind of wine to me.
Uh-huh. Let's pull it off and see what it is right now.
So that's one. Hold on, Sandra. Do you think?
Oh, wait, what did media think of
Are
it?
you changing? Yeah. Are you changing? your scores
No.
here?
No,
No.
this
You
is
sing with
still
that?
my favorite wine.
Oh,
Christian is gonna send you.
I guess I have to change it.
Christy, come on, don't bend to the pressure.
Don't bend to the pressure. Be true to yourself.
Well, now it's about
It's
subjectivity versus objectivity.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's the trick here.
Yeah.
And I get like,
Because it's in the bag.
in addition to that, but I get also some muscat on that. And like, there is a little sweetness, to me, like a black amber.
Yeah.
Like, have you had the, Tony wines?
Mm-hmm.
The dessert wine that he makes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of a little sweetness in the back that, to me, that wasn't Zinfandel, but that was more leading to that kind of exotic
Mm-hmm.
type of a varietal. I think this is a blend as well.
I can break the tie.
That's a trick question too, the blend part out also. But go ahead. Let's see what it is.
Oh, yeah, this is Mendoza, Argentina.
Well, there you go.
There it is.
That's the variety.
It's Bonarda. It's a Bonarda. It's a Bonarda. All right. So this is Serrera. This is Serrera, which is Bonarda. Now, these are our very cool friends in the Uco Valley, and they are huge farmers in the Uco Valley, and they sell tons of fruit to just every major producer in Argentina. And then they make about 5,000 cases, and they give to us. And Hernan, who was Paul Hobbs' assistant winemaker at Regalos for 4 years, he's a really wild and crazy guy. So it's a state fruit, Bernarda, and he just loves Bernarda, and he will never tell you this, and he will never tell his winery clients, but he blends a little bit of his Bernarda in all his Malbecs that he sends out to other people. He also will put a little bit, he's never told me this, but I guarantee there's a little bit of Malbec in there, just because he's that crazy. And there might be so you say it's a blend, there's a couple other things in there. It's just sort of Hernan's like little, I can't just put Bernard in this. I got to do something else with it. That being said, it's Uco Valley, high in the Uco Valley. If you get a little violet, now Bernarda is a very rustic, rough grape. Now, remember I was talking about the Italian immigrant? I like to call him Luigi. Yeah. It's Luigi, when he had his grapevine in one hand, and Luigi just happened to be from Piedmonte. And he had Bernarda in the other hand, and he went over to Argentina and planted it. So before there was Malbec, there was Bernarda. So Bernarda is Argentina's Zinfandel. You know how Luigi, Luigi's cousin, when he came to California, he planted all, he went to the boot and picked up all this stuff that come from, like all these other places, and he put this stuff in. The Zinfandel just did really well, and it cropped a lot. Well, the same thing with Bernarda. Head pruned vines, overcrops, you got to really cut it back.
It's really
keep low.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's so dense on the nose.
So think like an old school Italian. Hey,
And it'll do a lot more. 5 hours from now, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that's and it really speaks of a country, Bernarda. I mean, that's another aspect. But the thing that differentiates this from a lot of other Bernardas, there's that little pretty violet nose, and all wines, just a little hint of it there, and all wines from the Uco Valley always have that. So that's sort of like
Bernarda. Like the guy from Zorro, the mute, that was his name, Bernardo.
It was.
Yeah.
I do believe so.
Bernardo, but we're talking about Bonarda.
Bonarda.
About close enough.
Oh.
That's like, with the accent, goes,
Only grown
It's just one vowel.
No, they grow in Piemonte, and they blend it into Barolo. It's usually a blending varietal, but just did really well, just like Zinfandel did here. And Luigi and his cousin who had Zinfandel, they just did
So
really.
use it as a primary and just dash.
Yeah,
another
and in
stuff
fact,
into it.
until
That's really cool, great.
Yeah, and
I really like
That's
it.
a nice wine.
until
I like
it.
yeah. And once again, that's $18.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's
Nice.
a state.
Wow.
It's not dry farm, but
What is the aging potential of this wine here? And I'm saying, is that something that you can put aside for 4 years, and improving? What do you think?
Bernard, I would say just because it has high acid and a lot of tannins,
Yeah.
you can put that guy down for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And
wow.
the sugar levels and the alcohol levels are, it says 13.9 or 14.1, whatever it is. But it's not so. I think you could definitely put that down for 10 to 15 years, and I wouldn't say that about a lot of Napa cabs.
Yeah.
Now, I generally like slightly younger wines. For me, in the next 2-3 years, enjoy and have it there. That would be my preference.
I would like to see this wine. For me, I like to see this wine a little bit against some bottle age. On it. I mean, that's a really. I like it. I like the components of the wine here. I think this is still a little bit disjointed.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. 3 or 4 years from now, it would be really interesting for me to look at it. But the flavors are really intense.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very meaty.
spicy.
And it's very different.
Think big grilled
Yeah.
steak.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
There you go with some grilled
Oh
onions.
yeah.
I want
say wild boar.
I want steak with some chimichurri sauce.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you go down there too, there's
that's
steaks you
what-
were talking about,
Yeah.
dry farm,
Mhm.
the without the corn feed and the whole bit. Yeah. So it's going.
So was it higher or lower that went for you?
I stayed the same.
You stay the same. All right. So this is a type.
Good. So
I
let's.
don't know, but
Are you mentioning on this
Yeah.
one?
I scored
Okay.
18.
Yeah.
He did 16.
I had 16.
All right.
And you
17,
had-
17,
Scored a little higher than
16.
you guys.
And you had 17 there? Okay.
So
good.
Dylan, you loved it. I'm gonna start with Dylan.
I did like this.
That was his second favorite wine.
It was my 2nd favorite. It reminded me of a Spanish Red. I don't know if that's what it is. Not exactly a Roja,
Analogy.
but that's I enjoy reds a lot, and I like bigger reds that have more flavor, that are a little more in your face isn't the correct terminology, but just they kind of jump up and say hi.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the acidity. I like the spiciness. So I'm not real familiar with all the varietals.
No, no, you won't be on this, so that's good. No, just first impression,
Thank
enjoy
you for
it.
making me feel better.
I just, the two comments I had were, it was spicy and a great nose. I mean,
Yeah.
and it really jumped out at me.
Yeah.
So that was my second favorite.
If you had to cook something with it, what would you serve?
Oh, porterhouse steak.
Oh, yeah.
And some
Like a grill or like with a sauce?
grilled and some chanterelle mushrooms with it.
Yeah.
I like the mushrooms. I like that chanterelle. Yeah.
From all those people, that was your least favorite
no, it wasn't.
at one point.
What'd you have?
From all of them.
Oh, I
17.
I dropped it a point.
Oh,
I dropped it a point.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
So you're 15.
yeah. It's
So
it's falling apart a little bit, but it's cool. Caramel, mint on the nose. It's to me. Now I'm embarrassed, but shit,
Yeah.
come on, Christian.
I said long dock and I was freaking 10,000 miles away. This tastes like a Malbec Cab blend to me. Yeah, it's pretty tasty.
I like the bottle. The bottle is different. The color is already.
Yeah.
Can
So
you talk about it?
Yeah, please. So this is actually a 50% Tannat, 50% Bordeaux varietals from Uruguay. And this is called Preludio from Famiglia Decas. Now, the Decas family, they're third generation Italians that own the Pueblo del Sol Tannat winery that I poured for you earlier. Now, this wine is this is the 2004 vintage, and very similar to Spanish wines of a previous generation. They are very into putting a little bit of American oak on their wines and cellaring them for almost 10 years before they actually start releasing those wines. They like to get some age on their wines. This is the same wine that they make their blend, they take it home, and then the whole family and the winemaking team sit around and go, which one's the best blend that we're going to do? that we're going to produce. So Tannat, 50%, 5 Bordeaux varietals, including Petit Verdot, Malbec, and then your Cab Franc, and obviously your Merlot and your Cabernet Sauvignon. This is the traditional wine, if you're a Uruguayan dignitary, that you would give to another dignitary if you were meeting an ambassador, the Preludio, which is the brand, the wine itself that's been made at the wine. This winery is Juanico, which produces the wine from Les Decas. They've been making wine continuously since 1870.
Wow.
And this is the Robert Mondavi of Uruguay, in that 1 in 3 bottles of all premium wines are theirs.
What's the price point on it?
This guy's about $65 right there, and it sees 100% new French and American oak. It's a big deal. On the East Coast, it does much better than it does on the West Coast.
It does.
Yeah, and they make a couple other wines because it's more of a Bordeaux style wine. It has some age, has a little bit of soft. You'll get a little bit of that soft cherry fruit that shines through on the very palate, but it's aged. And here in California, we're not used to having that very often.
You know, I mean, all those wines to me seems to be reminds me of some of the wines I've had from West Virginia. You know, from that side of the country, and it's definitely much more. The acidity is more like it's greater, and Uruguay. I mean, if you haven't been to Uruguay, this is a very tough country as well because this is flat. I mean, this is flat. I mean, the wind is coming up. I mean, it can be like really, really windy.
Well, Uruguay, like you were saying, they have the river that flows in that separates Uruguay and Argentina actually is the widest river in the world. So if you're in Buenos Aires and you're going to Montevideo, you're not flying over the ocean, you're flying over an open river coming in. And then on the other side, you have the Atlantic Ocean. And you have these soft, rolling hills that you're speaking of. So it's very much more like Bordeaux in that it's instead of like in Chile where you have these high mountains with these valleys below.
Or even Sonoma, where you have the other ranch and over.
Exactly. So you have these little, what I call sort of happy people, happy cows. They do all this and they make their wine and they grow their wine there. But they are cooled with what separates Uruguay from other parts of particularly the Atlantic coast. Now remember, the winds flow in a different direction in the southern hemisphere. So the better wines are produced on the Atlantic side, i.e. Argentina and Uruguay, than the Pacific side. Here in the northern hemisphere, the better wines are produced on the Pacific side because the winds are swirling and the tides are going in different directions. So in Uruguay, it's covered by water on 2 sides. So you have you're getting cooled you're getting the ocean influence on 2 sides. Yeah. By the way, Uruguay has the coolest beaches. It is the playground. It is the Riviera of South America. So if you ever have an opportunity,
Brazil and all the Brazilians are going down there, and
it is the playground for the world. So and they have this crazy sandwich there called the chivito. All right, so you got to imagine a glass of this, and you have a chivito. So imagine like a really nice egg bun. All right, a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of grilled filet mignon, a little bit of ham, a little bit of bacon, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of Lipitor, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of grilled onions, a sliced tomato, sliced lettuce, tomato, and then a soft fried egg in the middle with 2 green olives. So when you cut into it, the egg yolk's running all over your BLT with filet mignon and to die for.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that's what Tannat is for, a high acid, slightly tannic wine. But remember, you can have a chivito all you want, but if you drink a glass a day, you will have been 90.
For sure. Listen, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Morgan, that was a great job.
My pleasure.
That was a great eye-opening. And again, where can we get your wine? What is your website? Any phone call? Any phone numbers? We can reach you.
Got it. So you can call directly at Taste Vino, taste-vino.com. Or we can call, what's the office number? You can call my cell phone. Or you can call my wife's cell phone number, which is 707.
That's right.
Once again, 707-363-4749. Once again, 363-4749. Taste wine-vino.com. Thank you.
All right. And the other wines are available on the website.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we update things on a regular basis. We do have wines at a few other retailers here in the Bay Area. Your better retailers, K&L, and a couple other spots as well.
Okay, fantastic. Well, again, I was Didier, Tout de Suite Social Club. Thank you very much. Tasting in the Dark. Wednesday, we'll be somewhere in downtown Napa. Thursday at Mondavi. Friday, somewhere in Napa. Saturday in Napa. Sunday in Napa. Well, Saturday.
Post-election.
Oh,
With
wow.
our, you know.
Will Durst.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Real funny guy.
When is that?
A lot of great things coming up always, and thank you for joining. And please give them a shot. Enjoy the wine. That was very, very different. That was really good.
Right.
And keep your eyes open and your taste buds open. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Salud.